I've been called the punk rock chef of Bergen or something in that effect since I started. So I used to have a big mohawk, and before I started cooking, or I guess maybe in the beginning, that was my career, was to be try to be as punk rock as possible. So I kind of brought some of that ethos into the restaurant, but yeah, it's good for marketing. I started writing food articles for the local newspaper when I was 20 without any big plan or motivation, and then that kind of morphed into taking my role a bit more seriously, and then at 25 I started apprenticing, and from there it was very linear up to where I am today. The restaurant opened in 2013 and has since the very beginning focused on seafood. In the beginning we were a fairly large space, so we had a nightclub and a cocktail bar all in the same space, and then slowly we phased out everything but the fine dining, and then that culminated in a Michelin star in 2022. And now we are fully focused on seafood fine dining. You know, we have a historical space. It's from 1938, so the building itself is very pretty. There's a bit of co-branding between the museum and us. It's also right in the middle of the center of the city, so the location is very nice. In the start of the restaurant, as a joke, we started calling our concept for Neo-Fjordic as a subgenre of New Nordic. We meant it as a joke, but all the journalists started writing it and quoting us on it, so we pretended like we meant it. Over time, it kind of morphed into a way of thinking around what we do, so that we have a natural connection to Western Norway, both in ingredients and the gastronomy, but also culturally, that we immerse ourselves in all the local festivals, and that we make the restaurant accessible for other areas of culture than just gastronomy. We base our menu off the seafood and the ingredients that are in season, which I guess every restaurant says, but we do it on a very day-to-day practical level. So we have a tight dialogue with the diver who we get all our shellfish from, and the fish supplier. So on a day like today, we probably have 5 or 6 different fish in, and then instead of compromising and finding one fish that's easy to put everywhere or enough, but the quality is lower, we'll have bycatch and day boat catching. And since we're a seafood restaurant, that dictates our menu. We also have a small farming operation, so whatever is coming up from that, needs to find a place on the menu. Sometimes we'll get ingredients, it's just not enough to put on the menu at all. So like different types of clams and stuff, where we might get 36 clams that week. So that fits in a counter where we normally have between, let's say, 4 and 6 guests. It's also different types of presentations and preparations that doesn't fit this, because our menu is fairly short. It's 9 courses as opposed to maybe 15 some other restaurants, right? So we can be a bit more conceptual and play around more on the omakase. So that was a reason for that. And then it just happens to be Japanese. The Japanese part is not important to us. Like, we're not a traditional Japanese omakase. It's the flavors from here, but served in a way that is, traditional omakase.
I joined the restaurant 2 years ago after having known Chris, the head chef, for many years. I had kind of retired. I went to one of the wine monopoly shops and worked 9 to 5 over there, but always wanted or missed being in the restaurant and working with wine and working with the producers and importers, and in a closer and more personal way. The motivation with the wine list or a wine pairing program is close contacts in the wine world, being importers or being our friends in the vineyards. When you work at good restaurants with motivating people, wine is kind of a natural way to go to learn every aspect of the dining room. We always want to learn and know what people are importing. They have their story. We want to tell ours. Working with the loads and loads of good importers in Norway, we get often tight bonds to both them and the producers. We try to work as close to the farmer we can. Chris has been a good relationship builder over time, so he kind of has his good connections. Our seafood delivery is the same as when it started in 2013. Building relationships over time is important in this business. Same with our delivery of vegetables in season. Has been the same guy for 10 years. So we rely on the same suppliers.
I'm pretty old school in my relationship with my suppliers. I haven't bankrupted anything. I've closed shops, but I've paid everybody instead of bankrupting it and owing them money and just blaming it on, you're in your right to bankrupt a business, of course. I just believe in, paying your dues. So that is more important than whatever status you have, that I'm here for the long run, and I try to be true to my word, which a lot of at least the old companies, they really appreciate. So the Michelin star hasn't really affected any of our suppliers because we've just been using the same ones that we've always been using. And they care more about you sticking to your word. If you say you're going to pay them, you pay them. And that you talk nice about them when you have an opportunity to talk nice about them. Like here, there's not a lot of, I'm not disappointed because it doesn't really matter, but I would have thought there would be more people ringing on the door asking me to use whatever they have because of the star, but it's not. So it's just business as usual, more or less.
Our main target is everybody that wants to come and eat at a high level. We of course want locals as much as possible. We are open all summer, so we need to have tourists in. We like to show, we do everything as local as we can, food-wise. That's not that easy drinking-wise, but we work with local meat producer, we work with cider producers, we work with producers of local drinks as well. We are a restaurant in a higher price range, so we need to have classics, so we need to have kind of the familiar faces on the wine scene as well.
Everyone with money. Well, except everyone. Our target audience is twofold. We want to be accessible for people from Bergen, so we're not, even though we're the only Michelin restaurant in Bergen, we're not the most expensive restaurant in the city. We also offer deals for institutions like different non-profits and festivals and art institutions, so that they can actually use us for their needs and their budget. And we also have, of course, a lot of tourists. So the tourists, they definitely want seafood, but they also want some sort of feeling of eating in Bergen while they're eating here. So we'll see. We have we try to have a product match both those demographics. The Michelin star was, of course, a validation for a lot of hard work and ambition. Professionally, it gives a sense of security in a normal world, but COVID and post-COVID, there's no sense of security anywhere. So it's more, without that, I don't know where we would have been, but for a small city like Bergen in a small country like Norway, having the Michelin come in and validate you is seen as an official objective recognition. I think on a baseline, I think it's just about good food, but I also believe, though unverified, that it needs to be good food within the expectations of the diners that follow the Michelin guide. Because there's objectively good food in every category, and there's great food in every category. But if you look at trends of who gets a star in different locations, I don't think a barbecue shop in Norway would get a star, because it's outside of the expectations of the diner in Norway. While you go to Texas, it's within the expectations to have world-class barbecue, right? And you have chicken and rice in Singapore, or crab omelet in Bangkok, these different places, these different things, steak, dried steak in New York, that will get a Michelin star because of the context it's in. So here I think that part of the criteria would be that though you can have a personalized space, there still needs to be at least a minimum level of intention. I use that word instead of sophistication or etc. Because that's a very vague term. But you go to a place like Hot Shop in Oslo, it's a very minimalist restaurant, very, very simple. But everything is done with very high intent at a very high level. And I think that's more important than if you have that exact cut. There's a lot of restaurants with very expensive cutlery and wine glasses that doesn't get a Michelin star. It's
always a nice recognition of what you do and which level you are working at. So of course it means a lot, and kind of pushing for a star and getting it and also retaining it over time is a good sign of consistent and well-functioning restaurant. I think it's harder to get one than to retain it in some way. You have to have shown to results over time to get the star. At least that was the normal in Norway before, because it's always been harder to get a star outside of the classic food countries. We see a lot of restaurants in Norway now that are chefs that branch from other Michelin restaurants that get the recognition. And we all here try to work at the highest level we can, and it takes a lot of hard work. So if you don't want to do that, you're naturally out. This restaurant's been here for over 10 years. From where it started to where it's now, it's been a long way of doing everything. And wanted to be a restaurant that was everything from nightclub to lunch to big parties and weddings and stuff, to being a small, focused, one menu restaurant.
Kind of lucky because we spent 9 years not having a star, just refining what we were doing. Then we got the star and we kept refining. My ambition has never been to make the restaurant super fancy, it's to make it just a better version of itself. We still play punk rock and rap on the sound system, and we encourage people to bring their dogs and kids.
The following Monday, we have an event here where we're doing the dinner, the Norwegian South African.
Like, we've had a lot of international recognition since we opened. Like, we've had an outsized amount of press, like both TV and media from around the world. So, and because of Bergen being a transit city for a lot of tourists visiting Norway, they will have found us through all this media in all the different countries, the TV shows and stuff. So we've already been fairly well known before we got the star. But of course, we will have some guests that come here because they use the Michelin. Like, I use the Michelin guide as a guide when I travel, so of course that helps. After 9 years of being one of the top restaurants in the city, we get the Michelin star. It doesn't necessarily open the eyes to a lot of people that hasn't already heard of us, right? So for me, it's more important to keep that just steady, our locals. And then with the tourists, I mean, there's always a new restaurant that is the most interesting or new or fancy or whatever, and then my goal is to be the one that's still there at the end of the run. You know, like we're not here for the 2-year fame. We have a 25-year lease. So
getting a star, you get an expectation that's higher from everyone, right? So you kind of earn the position. Everybody will push you to you have to deliver at some point. Revenue-wise, we are higher priced now than we were before, but we still have more chefs, we have more front of house, and we have less guests. So we don't make any more money. We just the average revenue from now to before the star is kind of the same.
There is a 3.6% profit average in Bergen in the industry. That, I think, that does not include the bankruptcies. Basically means that anyone who is profitable is successful. But 4% profit margin is a lot less than, you know, average, regardless of industry. So if you have success at 4%, if that's success, then money, of course, is not a parameter for success, right? So the best we can hope for is stability over a period and predictability and an increase in quality. That, to me, is a measure of success. The challenges that we face right now is that we haven't had a normal year since 2019. We had extremely high energy prices or during and after COVID. We've had a lot of inflation. People's personal finances have been very poor. So the interest rates from the banks have tripled. Not really sure. So a lot of luxury spending has disappeared. Look, we're the only Michelin restaurant in the city now, and it's May. It's normally our high season and we're like maybe half full. So it's been really, really tough to run restaurants the last couple of years.
All right.
Okay, any questions for today?
Hello.
No? Great service, guys.
The challenge is to contain, to have a consistency over time during the whole year, filling up your restaurant every day. That is hard with only Norwegian customers. Even though Norway is a rich country and yada yada, it's still difficult times for everyone. Where you cut when you don't know how the future will be. It's food and wine in this country because we don't have any old culture of it. Fairly new rich country. So yeah, filling up. I mean, the easiest job would just be full restaurant 12 months a year. That would be zero work, just consistency. Now we have to do marketing in a different way. We do events, and where we could have just done one thing, we now do 10 things. Create activity and have people remember us from day to day and be kind of a top of mind of everybody. If they're a newspaper article or if it's an Instagram post or whatever it is. Chris, the head chef, being on the biggest Christmas show every year, just to kind of put ourselves on top of everybody's mind that we are here. Come and eat.
I think now there's like we're drowning in different ratings, so you just have to pick an area that you can focus on. People's attention span is shorter, like you're being bombarded with information in every direction, so anything that's quantifiable is very easy to understand. Something like the Guardian's reviews, where they're long evaluations of the product. There's no score or no objective rating. It's just you have to read the article and then make up an opinion how that fits your own sense of value. But I'm not necessarily sure that's what is going to make or break a restaurant these days. Like you see in the bigger cities where the competition is a lot harder between the media, what normally would be maybe like a 3-month period to get reviewed, now it's down to a couple of weeks at most. So in New York, if you have an ambitious restaurant and you don't get a good review the first 2-3 weeks, it's going to take years before the New York Times ever comes back, and nobody can wait for that. So you're forever a 1-star restaurant in New York if you didn't deliver within the 2 first weeks. So that's the downside of it. Like we're lucky. We spent 9 years refining what we did for a star. So when we got the star, there was no expectation. It wasn't going crazy with it. We just continue doing what we're doing. So we'll miss some of the hype and the pop that you could get from it. But I think in the long run, it's good for a steady business.